What's going on, everybody? Brandon Schaefer here. It's going to be a pretty rough video, just having some fun. I'm going to do some drawing. Going to draw the Asaro head, have it on a tripod here lit up. Check it out and let's get into it. Starting out with a B pencil, and I have a 3B as well, so I'm going to be using those most of the time. A little darker than I would normally go, but that's just for the video purpose, so you guys will be able to see. I'm gonna grab my eraser here, a little kneaded eraser. Now let's get to it. So I got the top kind of marked out, where I want the top of this thing to be, and I'm kind of just gonna try to think about where I'm gonna want the width of this thing. So there's a few ways I have the ability to start a drawing, and I can do a really kind of an academic method, which is kind of using only straight lines and blocking in this manner, kind of the entire envelope of the object, and keep moving that around, and that's how I can get the proportions. So that's one way I can kind of block this in. So I'm going to start off that way. And what can happen is, when you practice this method a lot, you can get really good at it. I haven't had that much practice with it yet. I've done it a little bit here and there. But when you have longer lines like this line here, it's much more, like the sides of this head, trying to go down all the way down to the bottom. It can be challenging to know where is the bottom, because with the proportions we have the top and then we have the sides marked out. So the bottom is the thing that I'm going to want to adjust. I'm either going to want to move it up or move it down, because otherwise I'm going to be moving everything around and it's going to be a pain. So I want to make sure I have these three edges stay where they are and try to only mess with the bottom edge. But like I said, with the long line like this, it can be difficult to kind of determine where the bottom's going to be. I can kind of guess, and that'll give me a starting point. But until I really figure it out, and that's the challenging part of this academic method that they teach in ateliers. It can be, it can take a long time. It's pretty challenging to do. So sometimes I kind of mix methods, and I might do that here shortly. It's good to get these angles right and try to get the angles as best as I can. But sometimes it's good to just start kind of gesturing in, the shape of this head, where it's going to sit in here, and that'll help me determine if I have the bottom correct or not, and it kind of helps with the proportions. So I'm going to start gesturing in a little bit of this head, and sometimes I'll use curved lines here just a little bit, just to kind of give me some flow. So I know over here is the ear, and I'm going to this goes straight down the side of the face, somewhere in there. So I'm making a lot of different lines, so what I can do is when I figure out where the right placement is, I can just erase the other lines, and that gives me a more precise idea. So looking at it now, I think the bottom needs to come down a little bit more, and probably the angles will be less steep in order for the bottom to extend more. But right now I'm still not sure, and I could spend a lot of time measuring it out, with my pencil and stuff. Even sometimes measuring it can be hard to, it can really be hard to lock things down, because your shoulder moves a little bit, things move around. Drawing from life, that's one of the challenges with drawing from life. So what I'm realizing here is the ears should line up. So I want to make sure I get that right. So that means this angle is off just a little bit. So it's less steep. Ear comes out to about here. So I'm trying to just pay attention to angles, obviously, because I'm drawing the Asaro head with a lot of angles. So I'm trying to pay attention to angles and facial features, these landmark features that are going to help me figure out placement. So it looks like bottom of the ears almost line up as well. So now I think I have the ears kind of roughly blocked in. So now I'm just moving down the head because the bottom is going to, adjust. I'm going to adjust the bottom. Because these proportions are locked in. I have 3 sides. So now I'm just trying to figure out how tall or short the bottom's going to be. So I'm just making my way down the head to try to figure that out. So I'm figuring out some of the angles here, and I think I'm going to place the chin right about here. And I'm hoping this doesn't change as I go on, but it might be smart to kind of use the ears as guides to lay in the rest of this, at least a rough estimate of, okay, the brow ridge coming across this way at these angles. Straight from that ear is a point. And then blocking the eyes in here very loosely. Like I said, in this, I'm kind of merging different styles of drawing. Starting out with these straight lines as academic method, they really wouldn't get into the facial features and things. You would sit here and really focus on, probably for a few hours, the proportions of the outside of this object, and then slowly start cutting into kind of where the chin is here. I can, instead of going all the way down, I cut into the object, this envelope, if you want to call it that. So then I can start shaping, blocking in a little bit tighter and tighter. But in this kind of a 30-minute video, I kind of just want to show how most of the time, this is how I kind of block in things. And I just want to do a little video, a little drawing, and show you realistically how to kind of, how I kind of go about a drawing like this, kind of guesstimate things, but also use the information I have. So the nose, the bottom, very, very bottom of the nose is actually right above the ear line, the bottom of the ears. So right about there, the very bottom of the nose. And then like the point of the nose, kind of where the globe of the nose is, at the end of the nose, is up just a little bit from that. The furthest point away from the face, I guess you could say. That's the nose. The nose is kind of at an angle this way. So I'm just figuring out angles, very loosely blocking this in. Like I said, just having fun. I mean, that's one thing I want to do. I was a little stressed out today about work and stuff, and I just wanted to do some drawing. Okay, and the mouth goes down from there. And I'm going to try to figure out, okay, we have this much room. Looks about right. So now I think the midway of the mouth, between the lips, is about there. We have an angle coming down this way and this way. Angle from the chin coming down to the mouth. So I'm trying to relate all these angles. These are parallel. I'm trying to relate all this stuff. And I'm kind of working on it as a whole. Cheekbone swinging in this way. But like I said, I'm moving down everything because that's what's going to change. Hope that makes sense. You know, I'm not going to change where the top of the head is for the most part, hopefully. I'm not going to change how wide it is. So I need to change the bottom because all these are locked elements. And maybe the top of the head could have been a little bit taller. But I think I'm going to measure it very quickly. I think I got it just about right. Yeah, just about right. You know, when you're drawing from life, you move your head a little bit and it can look a little funny. Might need to adjust some of these angles later, but the top of the head is right where I want it to be. I just don't know that the angles are in the right place up here. But that's something to worry about a little later. Kind of focusing in on that a little bit. So now I can trying to approach this kind of like a sculptor, kind of carving away some of the drawing, the outer limits of the drawing here. And even some of the inside. So I'm a little different than a sculptor, but same kind of concept. Just keep moving lines, blocking in things. So now that chin, the dip in the chin looks like right about there. So now it's just kind of connecting all the lines and angles of this drawing in order to get, yeah, there we go. So eyes blocked in, nose, mouth, the chin, underneath the chin, slowly moving downward. Trying to remember those straight lines, blocking in these angles. And looks like I'm trying to use long lines. I'm trying not to use too many lines, but I know in the beginning stages it's going to be a little bit sketchy here. So I think this goes more at an angle. So I'm going to fix that a bit. Now I'm still trying to figure out how far to come down. So now connected to this chin is kind of an Adam's apple structure. And at this point I could really measure everything out. This is I'm at the point I have enough information here that I could measure how tall that Adam's apple piece is compared to something else, compared to the ear. Is it taller than the ear, smaller than the ear? But I'm also at the point where I can pretty much eye it up. You know, when you have a little bit of experience in drawing, you can pretty much eye this up. And I'm also trying to make sure I'm putting it in the right spot. So compared to this eye, how far does it come over? Things of that nature. Making sure I have the chin in the right spot, because I compared the Adam's apple placement with the chin. And it might need to come over just a bit more. It's just not a big deal. And the chin probably needs a little bit fixing. You know, I'm just comparing it to the nose. Where does it line up with the nose? And is the nose in the right place? So, you know, just slight adjustments here. Nothing super critical. Just slight adjustments. Like I said, I'm just having fun with this. It's not like it's not gonna be like a finished drawing or anything spectacular. Just kind of a quick sketch to get my mind off things, relax, chill out, get some practice in. And I'm just gonna eye this up. Oh, my leg's starting to hurt there. I need a better table. I need a slanted setup or something. I'm gonna say the bottom of that is about right there. The angle of it goes back like that, kind of. Even though it's a curved surface. So where does the bottom of that end at? Yep, right about there. And the bottom of this one, right about there. Maybe less of an angle. So it's just moving, I'm just moving these lines around. And what I'm doing here when I hold my arm out, I'm holding my pencil straight up and down or horizontal. And that's just giving me measurements like this. I'm trying to figure out where things line up compared to the actual model, if you want to call it that. So I'm trying to see, like, are these 2 points, you know, do they line up? How do they line up? So I'm just slowly building this up. Now I can see, where do these come down from. Looks like right about at this point they kind of branch off. Same on this side, comes down. A line there and a line here. So we're almost getting to the bottom here. So these are pretty much straight lines. So you can see the angle I had a little too steep earlier. But like I said, I didn't know where the bottom was. And that can be tricky with the academic method. It's why it's better for like site size, or it's more efficient with site size, I should say, not better. It's not that one's better than the other. I just have a method of my own, and I've learned other new methods, new to me. You know, I've learned other methods, and sometimes it's easier for me to just gesture it in like this, and then I can really fix it up as time goes on. It looks like the curve is not this drastic here. It's a much shallower angle, much shallower curve there. So by fixing that curve, I'm going to be able to fix this other curve. That's why curves are tricky. That's why it's better. It's really better to do these straight lines for the curves. I'm just right at the bottom of the paper. I don't have much room for my arm. But, you know, use like 2 to 3 straight lines to determine your curves. And then you can, once you have those straight lines, you can kind of make a curve out of it. But anyway. And then we're at the bottom here. I think that's about it there at the bottom. All right, now let's get back to, I think that looks good. It's hard to say, me being this close to it. I'd have to get a little further away. And it really needs to be cleaned up. You need to clean all these lines up, you know, these thicker lines, these sketchy lines, clean those up. That can take a lot of time. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do a little bit just to ease my mind, and I want to know kind of what's happening here, what's going on. I can just see things a little more clearly. So not bad blocking. I mean, it's something quick, just having fun. So, you know, if this was like a finished drawing, I'd spend way more time on this thing. I'm not even sure I'm going to finish anything here. I'm just kind of, it's a little drawing session basically. And so now that I have everything, all the major things blocked in, for the most part, I can come in and get them a little more serious about it. Can't even see that line. So now I can get a little more serious. I can start really putting some lines in here for the eyes, for this eyebrow. I know this line comes right off the face there. So now it's all about finding these angles for the most part. It's just finding these angles of the head, observing, analyzing it, and putting it down. And when you're doing like foreshortening, like up here, it's really tricky, for me anyway, because the lines are going back into space. And sometimes it's hard to even see which way they're curving. So I just hold up my pencil vertical, and that'll give you an idea of which way that line's going. Is it going left or right? And then it's a little easier to figure out how to draw your lines. So now I'm putting this line and I'm figuring out that was a little off. So it's always making corrections as the drawing goes on, and always making corrections. But for the most part, I have the proportions figured out as best as I could just from looking at it very quickly here in 20 minutes. You know, it's very, very quick to do something like that amount of time. So coming down the nose. Getting some of these lines figured out. There's really no line here on that plane. So at this point in the drawing, I haven't even thought about light or shadow. I do have a light pointing on this head, but I haven't even figured out light and shadow at all in this drawing. I'm still focusing on the structure And there's no like right or wrong way to go about it. You know, I could really, if I wanted to, block this whole thing in. It's just different methods of working and what I feel like doing at the moment. And I'm kind of just sticking with the lines here for the time being. There's some subtle plane changes right here that they have on the head. It's kind of the brow ridge. So you can see I kind of jump around a bit, and I try to make sure what I'm doing is correct as possible. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I do want it to be as good as I can get it in this amount of time. So I'm putting the eyelid. I'm going to jump to this eye. I want to make sure. Make sure I'm getting these angles right. And these eyes have a pretty good placement. I think they do. It's always easier to see when you're not the artist though. Like watching the video, it's probably a lot easier to see mistakes and stuff like that. For me, I'm kind of focusing on small areas. It's hard to see the whole thing. The bottom looks a little funny, but my main focus is up here for now. I can go fix the bottom and as time goes on. Okay, so there's that eye, and then this eye. It's a little tricky here because there's a really dark shadow right in this eye. So it's really hard to see the planes in there. It's hard to see what's happening. So it looks like the eyelid comes down. And I'm not trying to get too detailed about it. Make sure I'm watching these curves. I don't want them to get too wild. So remaining aware of that. And looks like the plane of the nose, yep, comes out to about there. Okay, so I had it pretty blocked in pretty well. I've drawn this thing enough now that I'm actually starting to remember the planes, at least on the more simplified side. This more complicated side is kind of for older heads and older faces, different kind of skin. So there's a lot more differences and planes going on, more complicated. But for the simplified head, I got it pretty down. I definitely think drawing this, even if you can only draw it from like a computer image, I think it's definitely valuable. Like go online and there's like 3D models of it. And if that's all you can do, I would definitely do a 3D model every day and try to, if you want to get into portraits, and just start spinning it and just draw it from every angle you can. And drawing it many times, I realized where my trouble areas are. I know areas that are tricky to me, you know, the nose and the mouth area, the eyes. This is all very tricky to me, mainly this kind of the mouth part. When I was doing small sketches, it would always come out a little bizarre, and that was always my trouble area. So I know that's something that I need to work more on and focus more on, kind of isolate this, you know, zoom into it and just draw all that from different angles. And then once I get that down, I can start incorporating it into the head more. You know, it shows you a lot of your problem areas. It's very useful for that, I'm finding. Oh, okay, so the nose on this side is different. It's more simplified. It looks weird because it's not symmetrical, but it's actually a more simplified nose. So there's not a nostril, and it's a different kind of the way the planes are laid out. Because it was looking very weird to me for a second, but you know, it's actually laid out differently. I might have a few things off here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. It's pretty darn close. You know, I think I have a little alignment issue here with the nose. Like I said, trouble areas. So where this nostril ends should be over a little bit more, maybe. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's kind of things I can move around. I think I just need to extend it a little bit. And as I start putting in more planes, more lines, it starts looking a little bit better. It was kind of just lacking form, lacking definition. The interesting thing I'm starting to learn is, like, you don't necessarily need shadow and light to show form or to show the understanding of form. It can be done with line if done correctly, or you know, in a stylistic way almost. There's different ways to show form. It doesn't always have to be shadow and light. It can be lines and perspective, and there's a lot of interesting ways to go about it, for sure. So facial features mostly blocked in now. And now it's just getting kind of the cheek planes, cheekbones. Alright folks, sorry about that. I had to get up and stretch my leg. It was dying. And I kind of figured out a little rig here with a tripod. So I have the paper leaning on a tripod. It works very well. So I'm going to go very quickly now. And I'm going in with the 3B now, and I'm going to darken up some things. Just to kind of finish this little sketch up, if you want to call it that. Let me finish some of these lines here. Some of these plain lines. So the mouth actually extends a little further. Not a big deal. Cool little triangle plane here. All right. I think that pretty much works. That gets the idea. Cross. Subtle plane shift there. So I'm blocking this ear very quickly. So I'm going to go in with the 3B now and really darken some things quickly. And like I said, this is quickly. This is just for video's sake. I don't want to make a super long video. But this would give some of you who are interested in watching me draw, at full speed, real time. This kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like for the most part, and it's kind of a messy type of drawing, this one is, but just for more refined, like a much tighter, more refined drawing, I would sit here and take a lot more time. So I'm gonna block in mostly the shadow areas very quickly here. All the shadow planes. So upper lip's always usually in shadow if the light's coming from above. And then the plane right under the bottom lip. The nostrils, bottom of the nose. Slightly this plane of the nose. Light's coming from over here. A little bit from behind. So this plane's slightly in shadow. Like if I had to say which planes are in shadow, the light is strongest right on the nose right here. So this plane's in shadow, but it's definitely not as dark as the bottom planes. I also have another light on behind me lighting this up, so it kind of changes the dynamics on the head a little bit. This is very reflected light, very bright, but you still get a pretty good shadow area on the head. The darkest area of the shadows are actually, when I squint, it's actually right up in here and down the middle. So the rest of this over here is very kind of like reflected light, very light reflected light planes. This part of the eye is very dark. So you can see how this tool is so helpful because you can draw a head, shade the head, and then it starts looking three-dimensional. You know, really to make this thing look more three-dimensional, all I would have to do is soften some of those edges, some of these plane lines, soften some of these lines, erase some of them, and then blend some of these shapes together, and it would probably be pretty realistic, just of a random head anyway. But that's why this thing is such a great tool, because it demonstrates how to go about, you know, when you're drawing a real head or painting a head, how to go about thinking about shading this thing and how light interacts with these planes. So this is where it's really dark. This is like the darkest area on the head. Right in here. But there's also shadow here. Definitely shadow here. This plane's pretty dark. And this plane's really dark underneath the eye. So usually around the eyes really are set back in. But actually right under the eye it's dark, under the eyelid. And there's actually light hitting this eyelid right there. So that can be a little tricky. Light hitting that plane's really light. So I think you guys kind of get the idea of what's happening here. And this eye is rounded. So the darkest area is right here under the eyelid. But also, darkest area is right as it's rolling away. And then this is all, it gets a little bit darker here. We go to the tear duct, but the rest of it is reflected light. So you have a sphere. Right there in the eye, there's a sphere. So that's why learning the fundamentals of drawing is so important, because you're always applying the fundamentals to life. There's a sphere there, you know, these are cubes, and you know, you're applying all the fundamentals of shading, form, you know, the cube, the cylinder, the sphere, all that's being applied when it comes to light and shadow. This thing's actually really fun to draw on toned paper because I can put in the shadows with graphite, and then I can put the lights in with white charcoal, and and then use the paper as the mid-tone. It's really fun to draw on toned paper, so I would definitely check that out. I'll show you guys an example here in a minute. I'm going to be done with this in just a minute. I don't want the video to be super long. And this isn't going to be like a finished drawing or anything. It's just a quick sketch. I may work on it later and stuff and actually finish it a little bit more. But just kind of a quick video here. I just wanted to check in and give you guys something to watch. See how I draw and how I kind of figure out at least the beginning stages of a drawing, how this can come together. And you know, before you start shading like this and really getting into it on your own drawings, really make sure your lines are in the right places, really make sure your proportions are there and everything checks in as best as you can. I mean, spend a few hours on it if you have to. If you're into like finished drawings and doing things like that, I mean, you really want to make sure you know, that everything's where it needs to be and things of that nature. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. There's actually a shadow shape, it comes right across here, and all this is in shadow. Thank you guys for watching. Post a comment down below, let me know what you think, and let me know what other kinds of videos you want me to touch on. What kind of things do you want to see on this channel? Let me know. So anyway, there's the drawing. That's how far I got on it. Almost looks like a real eye in there. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. So here's that example I was talking about where I can do like the lights in white chalk and then graphite for the shadows. I didn't do the shadows very dark here. Let me see if I can find another one. Yeah, not much, but you guys get the idea. With the tone paper, you can do white. Sometimes I just do little dots of white for like the main highlights. And then I use graphite to kind of shade the rest of the drawing. So pretty cool. Anyway, thank you guys for drawing with me and watching me draw the Asaro head. And just have some fun. Maybe in the future I'm gonna figure out maybe a little better drawing setup, better lighting and stuff. But for now it is what it is. I'm stuck in this apartment right now and that's just how it is. So I'm just gonna roll with it, have fun with it. And let me know if you guys want me to touch on anything in the future while I'm drawing. Any questions you want me to answer, stuff like that. I'd appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the videos. Stay tuned for the next one. As always, take care of yourself. Keep on painting and drawing. Don't get discouraged. Take care of yourself. Peace, my friends.